our purpose for getting the vitamin D3 is to make you more sensitive to insulin. But it will also, as a side note, it's going to make you absorb more calcium. And so it can prevent osteoporosis, especially if you take good vitamin K2. So those are good ways of dealing with, like kill two birds with one stone. Well, actually, there's two stones there.
All right. Hello, guys. You know what? I'm going to leave it on. I think
Oh.
Dr. Sunder should talk for a minute because you guys can try to guess where he is as part of the fun
That
today.
shouldn't be hard right now. uh, yeah, I'm on vacation. My daughter just ran the marathon, the marathon, the marathon to Athens marathon, and I walked the last 6 miles with her. I didn't run the whole thing. No. She said about 13 miles into it, she was ready to quit. She goes, "Oh, I can't do it anymore." Then she got a second wind and made it all the way.
Wow. And you know what? Does she know that since she ran that marathon, she now lost 1 pound of fat? Isn't that what you all
Yeah, that's what I told her. It takes 1 pound of fat to run a marathon.
say?
Yeah.
Funny. Well, that is so cool. And what a view there. I'm actually going to switch this view here so that you guys can probably see it a little bit better. But what time is it there for you right now?
It's 8:03 to be
Wow.
exact.
So
Okay.
where are you? Where are
Guess.
I mean, I've seen something like that in Italy, but
Nope.
you were speaking French.
Je
So
parle français perfectement.
Paris.
Si, oui, gay Paris.
Muy bien.
Wrong language.
Très bien.
He said si though, and then he
Yes.
said oui oui.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
That's awesome.
Very
Well,
nice.
cool. I'm
Mais
excited that
oui.
you were able to tune in, you guys and Dr. Saunders. Very fun. We have a good webinar ready for you guys today. So say hello in the chat, guys, when you hop on. Is it a little bit cold there?
Oh yeah, it's like 50 degrees.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably about the same temperature here in South Dakota. So good to know. All right. Lots of you hopping on. Awesome. Guys, we're going to be chatting about type 2 again today. Just a quick disclaimer, Dr. Saunders is not your doctor. So the information that's given is just for general purposes. Please consult with your personal provider before you implement any of the things that we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about some supplements that are important for people with type 2 today. And this is going to deviate a little bit from what we say a lot because Dr. Saunders has said many times that if you really want to reverse your type 2, then you need to do the diabetes solution kit. And that is still true. And we'll talk more about that. But there are a few people, more than a few probably, who are actually deficient in certain nutrients. And that has caused their type 2, which I think is so interesting. But for the majority of people, that is not the case. So what we want to talk about today is why supplementing is still important, why we should do that on top of the diabetes solution kit, and what supplements are best. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit. One of the first things that I'm hoping we can talk about is vitamin D. And why is that important for not only people with type 2, but for everyone?
Oh, vitamin D, interesting thing about vitamin D, it is not a vitamin technically, because vitamin is something that is vital to life, and that's, well, vital is life, but it's required for life, and you can't make it in your body. And we make vitamin D, but the problem is we need sunshine to do it. So they kind of classified it as a vitamin because people weren't getting sunshine. And during the Industrial Revolution, especially in Europe, There are a lot of areas of the world where the pollution from coal burning factories and everything, the air was blackened, and people were burning coal in their fireplaces. So like every house is burning coal, and the factories are burning coal, and so you can imagine the soot in the air, and that absorbs all of the or most of the ultraviolet light that makes vitamin D. So the ultraviolet light doesn't make it down to the ground where people live. So people were getting rickets from a lack of vitamin D. And it was fairly common. And then there were a lot of sort of cultural things, like people wanted to have really white skin. They wanted like milky white skin. And in order to do that, they would avoid the sun. So they never let the sun touch their skin. And especially like children, they wanted children, if they were ragamuffins, they'd play outside. But, if they were wealthy children, they didn't let them outside. They didn't let the sun touch them. So they wouldn't get any lesions or marks or darkening of their skin. So, of course, what ends up happening is rickets. And if you ever heard of the story of Heidi, Heidi lived in Frankfurt in Switzerland, actually. And her grandfather lived in the Swiss Alps, and, her parents died. She was an orphan, so she went to live with her grandfather. And then she became a servant in a house where her friend Clara, she was a playmate for Clara, who was in a wheelchair. And she finally convinced Clara's parents to let her go up to the mountains, and Clara went up to the mountains and was cured. She got out of her wheelchair and she walked. Well, why did she walk? Well, probably two things. One would be that the sunshine, they said it was the mountain air, but the sunshine makes vitamin D. And then the other thing is the goat's milk that they were drinking would have a lot of vitamin D in it. So between those two things, the Clara was healed. And that was really just a vitamin D deficiency that she got vitamin D. So of course it got better. And if you've ever heard of The Secret Garden, that's another one. Very similar, almost exactly the same thing. Got healed.
They went to the
getting out of the
garden,
sunshine.
not the mountains.
Yeah. So those kinds of things were fairly common back then, and now we don't have it that bad. We don't see people in wheelchairs because of it, but we do have osteoporosis. If you've heard of osteoporosis, you know what that is? It's a lack of vitamin D. And what that means is that you don't have enough calcium in your bones. And that's the same thing as rickets, not enough calcium in your bones. But it's not just for vitamin D is not just for calcium. It also is the vitamin D binding protein is macrophage activating factor. And that's what keeps your cellular immune system working well. And so it gets rid of viruses before they take over your body and cause an illness. So people who have enough vitamin D, they don't get sick, even though they get exposed to the virus. And they've done studies on this. They've had in England, they got 100 people and sprayed them so that they all breathed in the flu virus. And the ones taking vitamin D had significantly fewer illnesses than the ones that had a low vitamin D. So vitamin D is important for the immune function as well. And then now we get to the diabetes part, because vitamin D is a hormone, and every cell in your body has receptors for vitamin D. It does something. It turns something on in every cell in your body. And one of those is it makes you more sensitive to insulin. And so we've included vitamin D in the in the Synachroma formula because it does make you more sensitive to insulin, and it's a common deficiency. People commonly are not getting enough vitamin D. So there is an optimum level. Optimum level, if you do your blood test, it's around 70 nanomoles per liter, which is equivalent to about 30 to 40 micrograms per deciliter. So, or I'm sorry, nanograms per deciliter. Anyway, so if you get a blood level and you look at that, I've had people with, blood levels of 4 and 7 and 16, and that's fairly common to have a deficiency. So that's why we put it in the formula. And that's the key to supplements. Supplements are supposed to be supplements. They're not like pills to cure everything. And I know there's all this advertising of, if you take this pill, then you don't have to change your diet. You can eat anything you want, and you won't have diabetes. And that's not true. It's always a myth. And you know what? These people have been around for millennia. In the early 1900s, the father of modern medicine, Sir William Osler, wrote a textbook, and he was trying to get people to stop taking pills. He's like, no, don't do the pills, fix the problem. And people just kept taking the snake oil pills and whatever else was available. And they would pay money for these things that weren't helping them at all. So then Sir William Osler, in his medical textbook, actually wrote, the difference between man and animals is man's desire to take pills.
Oh, goodness.
So, yes, we're talking about pills today. And guess what? We sell pills. But that's not the issue. That's not what makes you better. However, it's a common deficiency. So, yeah, you know what? It's worth it to take the pill. And the pill isn't supposed to cure you. The purpose of the pill is to help you to use your sugar more efficiently so that you can do the program and get better. Because how many people have we talked to that are doing the program? They're working on it. They're doing everything they can. They're eating under 20 grams of carbs a day, and they have not lost weight. They're not doing better. And sometimes, not always, of course, but sometimes that's because of a deficiency in one of these nutrients. That's why we have them.
All right, I love it. I just want, Ray, I need some clarification. Does does vitamin D add insulin sensitivity, or does it add to insulin resistance?
Oh, it adds to insulin sensitivity. It makes you more sensitive to insulin and prevents you from becoming more resistant to insulin.
Yeah, you want to be sensitive to insulin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so guys, I had pulled up bartonnutrition.com and I shared that with you guys. I'm going to do that again, just because I want to show you this. So if you go to Barton Nutrition, you will find all of our supplements. But here's Synachroma. If you are interested in that, use code webinar25 and you'll save 25%. That is one word, webinar25. But I want to talk about some of these other ingredients and why we put these in here. The chromium, vitamin K2, selenium, vanadium, cinnamon bark. Why are those important to people with type 2?
Okay, chromium is important for the utilization of sugar, glucose. So the body is not efficient because the enzymes that assist in the breakdown of glucose require chromium. And so if you don't have enough chromium, then you become inefficient at using glucose, and your blood glucose is going to tend to go up. And we have actually had people take Synachroma and getting on the chromium, they become more sensitive to insulin. They use the glucose more efficiently, and their blood glucose goes down to normal before they even change their diet. So after telling you all that the pills aren't going to cure you, I just told you about someone that did. Well, you know what? If you're deficient in chromium, yeah, that's a possibility. You could have diabetes or high blood sugar. You could have high blood sugar just from a chromium deficiency. So that's a possibility. And it is a common deficiency. I've tested thousands of people, and it's fairly common in people that have type 2. So that's why we included it in the formula.
Okay. Can you get chromium from food?
Yes, you can. Things like leeks and onions and garlic, and there are a lot of vegetables that have chromium. The problem is, if it's not in the soil, it's not going to be in the food. And so the depletion of soils has kind of left chromium. It's easy to get deficient in chromium because we eat a lot of processed foods and not a lot of natural foods. So that's kind of one of the issues. And vanadium's in the same position. It's hard to get enough vanadium, and they go together. They work together, the chromium and vanadium.
Okay. And also the vitamin D3 and the vitamin K2, we want those together as well. Is that correct?
Correct. The vitamin D3 is a hormone that helps you absorb more calcium from your food than you would normally absorb. And so if you got all this calcium in your blood, what'd you do with it? Well, if you don't do anything with it, then it becomes it deposits on your artery walls and gives you hardening of the arteries. So you don't want high calcium in your blood. You want to be able to use the calcium. And that's what vitamin K2 does. Vitamin K2 will actually, studies have shown it will actually take calcium out of the soft tissues like the arteries and put it into bones. So that's why the K2 is there. So because our purpose for getting the vitamin D3 is to make you more sensitive to insulin. But it will also, as a side note, it's going to make you absorb more calcium. And so it can prevent osteoporosis, especially if you take a vitamin K2. So those are good ways of dealing with, like kill two birds with one stone. Well, actually, there's two stones there.
What about selenium?
Okay. Selenium is really important in type 2 for a different reason altogether. This isn't about insulin at all. It's really about energy. So it's a very common problem in type 2 because you don't use energy efficiently to have high levels of inflammation because you get higher inflammatory markers. And there's something called glutathione, which is like the primary antioxidant for the mitochondria that make your energy. And if you don't have enough selenium, you don't recycle glutathione very easily. So the purpose for selenium is so that you can have enough glutathione to get the inflammation down so you can rebuild mitochondria and fix your energy system.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, I'm going to share this one more time because I just want to, we get so many questions about synochroma, and I just appreciate Dr. Saunders going through all of this. Now, here's the big question that we know that everyone's going to ask. Okay, I'm on metformin. I'm on whatever supplement or whatever prescription from my doctor. Can I just stop taking that since I have synochroma?
Well, see, that's an individual thing. So it depends. If your blood sugars are normal, then you should consider not taking most of the medications that are used for diabetes. Metformin's okay. In fact, some people who don't have diabetes take metformin just so that they can, there's an effect of it causes your body to burn fat instead of sugar. So because of that, it has sort of a longevity benefit. So some people take it just for longevity purposes, and they're not actually trying to control their blood sugar at all. So you don't have to stop the metformin, but if your blood sugar is normal, you can actually talk to your doctor and say, hey, can I get off the metformin? My blood sugar is pretty normal.
All right. I'm going to post this link again. It's Barton Nutrition. Barton Nutrition. Sorry, I'm talking and typing at the same time, which is dangerous. There we go, Barton Nutrition, and then use code webinar25 in order to save 25%. The other really popular supplement that we talk about is berberine. And I think it's good for us to talk about that. In fact, I think when we originally wrote the diabetes solution kit, we didn't have berberine as a product. And I think more and more information is coming out about that. And so let's just touch base on why someone might want berberine.
Okay, so we have had people actually send us messages. I had somebody send me a message on my email asking, well, why did you put cinnamon instead of berberine and cinachroma? And the reason is because the cinnamon is something that helps you be more sensitive to your insulin. And that's on a daily basis. That's not like a nutrient that you need long term. That's like, okay, let's help you control it right now. Berberine has so many other benefits that we didn't want to put it in the cinachroma just for type 2, because it's used for longevity purposes. It's used for people with cancer. It's used for type 2. It's used for other inflammatory conditions, energy problems. If you want to increase your mitochondria, it lowers cholesterol. It has so many other benefits that we had to take berberine and put it on its own, because it's going to be used by a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. So that's the berberine. And, I think berberine is one of those things that people can take, and I would recommend it on an irregular basis. Like, for example, 5 days on, 2 days off in a week, or 1 week on and 1 week off. There's an advantage to doing it on an intermittent basis, because what has been found is that things that you do on a too regular a basis, if you do it too regularly, then it stops working. And this has been proven with certain even herbs, like wormwood has been used for centuries to get rid of malaria. And so people taking malaria pills on a regular basis, if they use wormwood, it stops working. But if they do it 1 week on, 1 week off, it continues to work. They've also shown that for magnesium, a mineral supplement, you actually stop absorbing it if you take it every single day, or your absorption drops dramatically to about 30% of what you start with in a 90-day period. So when you take berberine, if you're going to take it long term, take it 5 days on, 2 days off is a really good way of doing it.
Okay, and why did we put milk thistle in with our berberine?
Oh yeah, that's a great thing. Okay, 2 reasons. Number one, milk thistle help. Number one, it helps absorption. That's number one. Okay. And then number 2, milk thistle is very important for a detoxing in the liver. So it helps something called conjugation. Berberine can have an effect on the liver because of the way it works. It increases cyclic AMP the same way metformin does. And metformin can have effect on your liver too. But metformin doesn't have the benefit of being mixed with milk thistle. So the milk thistle actually prevents any problems from showing up because it improves the ability for the liver to conjugate the berberine, and so it won't affect your liver.
All right. Okay, so those are the 2 main supplements that we talk about. The other thing I keep hearing a lot about in advertisements and in podcasts that I'm hearing is how important fiber is when dealing with blood sugar. So what are your thoughts about fiber? We do have some fiber supplements, and how might those be beneficial to someone with type 2?
Okay. It's hard to extol too much the benefits of fiber. Fiber is really, really good for you. And it seems like more is better. There's no upper limit. Almost everything has an upper limit. I wrote an article for Home Cures That Work on the J curve. Well, like almost everything has a J curve where where you have an optimum level, and then if you have too much, the death rate goes up. If you have too little, the death rate goes up. And so that the bottom of that curve is the optimum level. But as you increase fiber, the benefits seem to just increase. So there are examples of people who live on food, and they're ingesting 100 grams plus of fiber a day, which I don't know if you know how much food that is. That's a lot of food. When you think that like a whole plate of salad is, everybody thinks, oh, I'm getting a lot of fiber. No, you're getting 4 grams of fiber in a whole plate of salad. It's not a lot of fiber. And then you eat an apple, you get another 3 grams of fiber, and you eat the whole avocado, and you're getting 5 grams of fiber. Okay, so you're going to barely make it up to the minimum 40 grams a day in all the food that you're eating. It's really hard to get too much fiber. On the one hand, it helps the intestines to make the kind of bacteria that decrease inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. So indirectly, that's how fiber works to improve insulin sensitivity. And then there's a direct effect. When you eat food with fiber, it slows down the absorption of the sugar in the food. So if you eat a white bread, or let's just say white rice compared to brown rice, the white rice has a more rapid absorption. So even though they say, yeah, the glycemic load is the same, the glycemic index is higher with the white rice than with the brown rice. Because of the fiber in the brown rice. So the fiber in fruit, for example, stops it from, you don't absorb it instantly because of the fiber. So you take something like watermelon that has hardly any fiber and it's got a lot of sugar and it's rapidly absorbed and it has a very high glycemic index. In other words, it shoots the blood sugar up really high and it causes you to make more insulin. Whereas when you have something with a lower glycemic index, like you take the same amount of sugar from an apple, for example, because of the fiber in the apple, you're going to have slower absorption. So having the extra fiber is very helpful for type 2 for both of those reasons.
One thing that I have noticed for myself is that whenever I'm trying to do low carb, I have a tendency to not get enough fiber. And which it's hard to get a lot of fiber, which we've just talked about. So Dr. Saunders, most of you, if you've been on this webinar, you know that he doesn't want you to eat or drink anything sweet because your body can respond to it as if you were eating sugar. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to bartonwebinar.com. There is a video where Dr. Saunders talks about this. So the team kind of negotiated with Dr. Saunders. We created fiber. I didn't create it, but Fiber Greens, which is a really good product. It's still a low carb fiber drink. And it's very popular. We have a lot of you who've tried it and absolutely love it. Dr. Saunders wouldn't recommend it for you if you are on phase 1, probably because you don't know how you respond to that. But I'm going to share my screen here so that you guys can see it. Most of you are probably familiar with it. In fact, comment in the chat if you've used this and maybe what your favorite flavor is. You've probably seen some emails about it too. But here is Fiber Greens. I actually had this today. I was going to see if I could see. I mean, there's a lot of vitamins in it too. I mean, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, chromium, smaller amounts of chromium. But it comes
because it's got the greens. It's got the greens in it too. So it's not just a fiber supplement. It actually has the benefits of green vegetables.
Yes, and the sweetener is stevia. So just so that you guys are aware. But it's still low carb. It does work, especially if you're on phase 2 and you know that you can tolerate this. We've chatted with some people. We have lots of stories. One of them that I like to share is we've had a friend on here who was able to have small amounts of juice. And you guys know how much sugar is in juice. His blood sugar would not spike when he had juice, but if he had a stick of sugar-free gum, his numbers would skyrocket. And so you have to see how your body works, which is
Mhm.
why phase one is important, to really get to that point where you can, I call it like having a clean system, so that if you add something in, you'll be like, whoa, that was way too much, or I know I can't have that. But fiber greens is a really good option if you're able to tolerate that. And so there are two different flavors. We have a green apple and then an iced tea lemonade. Super good. You mix it with water. There is, I think it's psyllium. Yeah, there's psyllium in it. So guys, you don't want to like mix it and then set it down for an hour and come back to drink it, or it will be thick and you will not enjoy it. So it's one of those things that you do need to drink right away. But another really good option for you. So fiber greens, use code webinar25, guys, you'll save 25%. This is a really good gift also, if I'm honest. People are always looking for a way to get greens and fiber. And so I think this is great. I know everyone in my family likes this. So, okay.
And it works. I'll just chime in real quick. No, it definitely works. And I was going to say too, like, we didn't necessarily formulate it specifically for people with type 2. It was actually more for people with heart health issues. Because Dr. Saunders' research has found that fiber was really important for people with cardiovascular issues. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit, Scott, Dr. Saunders.
Yeah, that's that is exactly why it was formulated, and that's why if you're on phase one, just to hold off on it if you're on phase one. But one of the other benefits of fiber is it cleans out the arteries and it holds on to the bile acids so that you don't recycle them, so that you make more in your liver bile acids instead of making more cholesterol, putting more cholesterol in your arteries. So it's just the way the system works for cholesterol. It's so much better to have fiber in your diet. And so we made the fiber greens to add extra fiber because, like I said, it's hard to get 40 grams of fiber a day.
Okay, one more supplement that we're going to talk about is I almost said Nirvana. Oh my goodness, Nervala. I'm going to show you guys that one. This is pretty popular too. Dr. Saunders, tell us, why did we create this? And what is the importance of Nervala and benfotiamine and alpha lipoic acid?
Okay, so let me tell you, I use this all the time. I use it for people who have type 2 and people who don't have type 2. People with neuropathy, nerve problems of any kind. And I've had people with brain problems. I've had people with post-COVID syndrome. Oops, I said it again. Sorry. Oh, you have to fix that in post. Post-viral syndrome. I've had people with other types of neuropathy, and then diabetes neuropathy. And it is really good. It works. It can take a few months. I've had people take 3-4 months and just kind of gradually get better. It depends how long you've had it. If someone has neuropathy for, a matter of weeks or a few months, that's fine. But if they had, 10 years of neuropathy, it's not going to go away in a month. It's going to take a while because nerves take a long time to regenerate. And the other thing about nerves, wait, I didn't even tell you why. Okay, why did we develop it? For neuropathy specifically. So I went through the literature. I did it. I went through all the literature and I go, okay, what actually has been proven to reverse the neuropathy in type 2? And there were two things that clearly showed a benefit. And one was alpha lipoic acid, and the other one is benfotiamine. Benfotiamine is just vitamin B1, but it's a special kind of vitamin B1 that is fat soluble, so it can get into the blood vessels, into the walls of the blood vessels. Why is that important? Because that's where all the damage is, and that's where the circulation problems are, and that's why people get neuropathy. They're not getting enough nutrients to their nerves because they don't have good circulation. So the benfotiamine improves the circulation, and then the alpha lipoic acid is the antioxidant that allows nerves to heal and regenerate. So these two supplements are not just for diabetes. I've had a lot of people who have poor circulation, for example, for other reasons, and I put them on Nervala as well. So we've had people come on to the webinars here and say, you know what, I took Nervala for 3 months and I'm getting better. My neuropathy is going away. One caution I always tell my patients when I start this is if you're starting Nervala and you have numbness, then what can happen after a while is it starts working and the nerve starts coming back to life. And as it's coming back to life, you get pins and needles and pain and prickly pain because it was numb before and now it's prickly pain. So you start saying, oh my gosh, it's making me worse. And we've had people call into Cheryl and say, it's making me worse. And Cheryl asked me about that. What's going on here? I'm like, the nerves are waking up. That's good. It's actually a good thing. So the start of getting better, sometimes you start feeling things that you didn't feel before because it was completely numb. So that's a good sign, just in case you have that.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to dig into your questions. So here we go, Dr. Saunders. Are you getting cold there in 50-degree weather outside?
50 degrees. No, I'm fine.
That's
I
good.
got a sweater and a jacket and we're
Oh,
good.
good. You're good. All right. All right. So Ginger had sent a message saying hi from Ginger in San Jose. I so appreciate this program. My A1C is now 5.4 and I'm totally out of diabetes after years and years of struggling with cravings and worse. Thank you so much.
Wow, 5.4. Okay. I just did for the home cures at work. We looked at hemoglobin A1C. What is the optimum hemoglobin A1C? It's 5.0 to 5.4. So she is like in the best place. That is awesome. Good work.
So awesome. Nice job. Tom has a question. How does beer, wine, and spirits affect type 2?
Ooh, often badly. You know what? It's really weird. Some people tolerate it. I don't know why. But I've had people who just go off their daily wine because I live in wine country and like there's a lot of wine around. So some people every night they have 2 glasses of wine. And I tell people just cut out the wine and they do. And their blood sugar comes normal and they don't have diabetes anymore. Hemoglobin A1C down to normal. So it acts as a sugar and increases the hemoglobin A1C and the blood sugar.
Not to mention it can really affect your sleep, which we've just talked about on a previous webinar. And you're not getting enough sleep or good quality sleep, that can really affect your numbers as well. So something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see here. Ronnie says, my doctor says I should have 75 grams of carbohydrates. Any thoughts?
Wow. Somebody actually told a type 2 diabetic they should have 75 grams of carbohydrates. I don't get it.
Little
Doesn't
different
make any
than our
sense to
program.
me.
A little different than our
Yeah.
program. And guys, I'm going to quick show you this. Here's the diabetes solution kit. So if you aren't familiar with this is, or with what this is what Dr. Saunders recommends. Honestly, more important than the supplements. This is where all of the good stuff happens. You can find this at bartonwebinar.com. And we do talk about the supplements in here, and he just went over why they're important, but this is where you do the work. This is where you learn how to eat. This is where the majority of the reversal happens. And so be sure to check that out. Okay. Loretta says, I have been taking 1 Synachroma every day with breakfast. My last month's lab result shows that my vitamin D3 level is 44 nanograms per milliliter. Should I continue?
Yay! Perfect.
Okay. Should I
Stay with it. That's the exact right level.
Okay. So that is what she's wondering. She should continue to take the Synachroma. Yeah,
that's exactly. And that's been my experience. And that's why we put 5,000 units in there. Because number one, there's supplements all over the place. There are like 400 units and 800 units and 1,000 units and 5,000 and 2,000. And people always call me and say, how much should I take of vitamin D? And you know what? I have found I test people's levels, 5,000 units, gets them in the right place.
All right. Loretta also gave us some lab information here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this in the Q&A, so I'll try to go through this, but She's just wondering for some feedback. She said her blood pressure seems to be too low without medication and no symptoms. Not sure why. But her glucose fasting is 104.5.
Okay, that's good.
Hemoglobin A1C 106.3.
No, 10.6? No, hemoglobin A1C has to be a single digit number.
Yeah, well, it says milligrams per deciliter. So I don't know.
Oh, that's milligrams per deciliter. That's blood glucose.
Oh, okay. So yeah, 106.3 then.
Yeah, that's good.
Insulin fasting 5.47.
Okay, perfect. It should be right around 5. That's awesome.
C-peptide of 1.95.
Yeah, perfect. It should be a 1 point something.
And the C-reactive protein is 0.21.
C-reactive protein 0.21. Okay, wow, that's great. That's low inflammation.
Cholesterol 213.
213, perfect. It should be around 220.
We have LDL of 136.89.
Okay, perfect.
HDL 67.72.
Wow, that's great.
And triglycerides 46.85.
Wow, okay. Well, so those are all very normal numbers. They're all good numbers.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's good to know. Any thoughts about why blood pressure might be too low?
Okay, I need to know what too low is, because too low blood pressure literally means like when you stand up, you get dizzy. It's symptomatic. So your heart starts beating really fast, and you're getting dizziness, or you're not able to maintain your blood flow to your brain. That's really where low blood pressure comes in. So a number, the optimum number of blood for diastolic blood pressure is 75, and it pretty much remains 75 throughout your life. The optimum number for systolic blood pressure, the higher number, is somewhere around 110 for a younger person, and for people over 60 it goes up to 120, and then people over 80 140. So it's kind of it changes. And so why would the blood pressure be low? Well, Craig says it's probably because of dehydration. and that's not a bad thought. Remember, we've talked about that. Look on our webinar for dehydration, where we talked about the salt, sodium dehydration, potassium dehydration, and water dehydration. And any of those, if you're depleted any of those, you can get low blood pressure. Not a bad idea. Craig, thank you.
All right. Rayanne says, Dr. Saunders is amazing. Thank you so much for taking time from your vacation to teach us about our bodies.
Ah, thanks. I love it. I love it. That's what someone said to me. You're going to do it while you're on vacation? Well, of course.
Okay. What are the dosages of Nervala and Synachroma after 6 months of one daily?
Just one a day. Yeah. Oh, after 6 months, I usually tell people, take it once a week. But, Synachroma is still, I do one daily. The vitamin D levels and everything in there can be taken every day.
Okay. Mark says my A1C is down to 6.6. Should I keep taking Synachroma?
Wow. Well, 6.6 is still diabetic. Yeah, absolutely. Keep taking Synachroma.
All right. John is wondering if we have any supplements that have a fair amount of potassium or vitamin B, like a B complex. I don't know that we have vitamin B in anything, do we?
No, we didn't put vitamin B in anything. Vitamin B is too easy to get. They're kind of rare deficiencies. And if you need them, you need a lot of a specific one. So, for example, if you're low in vitamin B12, you actually need a lot of vitamin B12 specifically, and you can't mix it with other things. And then folic acid, vitamin B9. If you're low in it, you probably need methylfolate, which is a special kind. So So that it's not something you could just throw into a multivitamin, which a lot of people do. A
Okay.
lot of vitamins have them, but we don't do that.
Okay. Neil is wondering what type of magnesium should be taken and what amount and time of day to take it to maximize your sleep.
Oh, okay. So if you take magnesium for relaxation, then you want to take it at night before bed. It does tend to relax muscles and allows people to sleep better. It's not a sedative. It doesn't make your brain relax. It doesn't sedate you. People do kind of get drowsy with it because their muscles relax, but it's literally a muscle relaxant, and it's the only one that works. Well, not the only one. There actually is others, but it's the only over-the-counter one that you're going to get that works on the muscles itself and not in the brain. So yeah, and that's what it's for. It helps you relax.
All right. Roy said, will the diabetes solution kit help with type 3, or is there something better to help with that?
Well, it will help with type 1, type 2, or type 3, and any of those you can help. And how is that? Well, if you have type 1 and your pancreas is not making insulin, then if you do phase 1 of the program, you're cutting out carbohydrates, you're decreasing your need for insulin, so that you're going to have to inject insulin, but instead of injecting 20 units or 40 units, you're only injecting 10 units because you're not eating very much sugar, and that helps you maintain a more constant level of sugar, and that's kind of important. I have a patient I've been working with for a while. She came up with type 1 diabetes, and she was in the hospital when they figured all this out. She got sick, and then her pancreas quit working, and probably the virus got in the pancreas or something and caused all these problems. And so she's in the hospital, and they say, okay, you have type 1 diabetes. And we're going to send you the nutritionist. The nutritionist comes into her room in the hospital and tells her, you can eat anything you want, just inject more insulin if your blood sugar goes up. So she was chasing her blood sugar all over the place. She was eating, so much junk food and stuff, her usual food. She was, and just like blood sugars were 500, and then they were 30, and then 200, and then just like literally all over the place. And she just didn't know what to do. So I said, okay, here's what you do. We're just going to use long-acting insulin, and you're just going to eat this, essentially doing the diabetes solution kit. And she has been like incredibly stable, not normal. She has type 1 diabetes, and she's not really good at controlling it. So I'm not going to try and get her into the normal range where she's 100 all the time. So she's always 100 and something, but it's really stable now, and so it's been really helpful.
All right. Graham is wondering if you can have too much vitamin D.
Well, theoretically you can, but I just did a program for home cures that work, and we looked at vitamin D levels at what's called the J curve. So you have the death rate increases if you're low in vitamin D, and then if you as you get up with vitamin D at higher levels, the death rate goes down. And then at some point, there was a study in Denmark that showed the death rate went up with vitamin D when you got over 100. But when they looked into that in depth and did another study on it, they found that what really happens is it's not the level of vitamin D that increases the rate of death. So theoretically, you can get too much vitamin D, but we have people taking 1 million units, like people who are debilitated and in a coma, for example. They have to give them vitamin D, and they'll give them a shot, and the shot is 1 million units, and they'll give it to them once a year. And because the liver can literally store a year's supply of vitamin D. So that's why you can get your vitamin D in the summer and last all winter and not get rickets. But your vitamin D level does go down. So the answer is yes, you can get too much, and that's when your blood calcium level goes up. If your calcium level gets too high, then people get nausea and vomiting and anorexia. They don't want to eat. And so if you're getting those kinds of issues, then that's because your vitamin D is too high.
All right. Larita says, my doctor said berberine acts like an antibiotic, so he didn't recommend it. Any thoughts?
It doesn't. Yes, it does act like an antibiotic, but more like an antifungal antibiotic, and which is great if you want to get rid of yeast in your intestines and stuff, because it breaks up what's called biofilm in the intestines, which is a good thing if you have like an overgrowth of candida or something like that. I think it's a good thing. So I don't know why the doctor would say that. But it's not that it's not true, but it's not a bad thing is really what I would say.
Okay. Craig says, I'm taking the full 5 product regimen. Should I be taking Ozempic at the same time?
I don't think Ozempic is a good idea. And here's why. Ozempic, one of the actions that it has is it causes you to increase your insulin production. And so it causes insulin resistance. So when people stop taking Ozempic, they gain weight really easily, and because they have more insulin resistance, and so they have higher insulin levels. So even though people lose weight with Ozempic, it's not a long-term solution. It's really a short-term solution. By the way it works is it slows down the stomach, the emptying of the stomach, so that your stomach stays full longer, so you don't eat as much. So it's really about not being hungry. That's what how Ozempic works. And then it increases insulin. So there's 2 ways that it helps diabetes, and it's not that it's bad. I just don't think it's a long-term solution, because you gain the weight back, and then you're more insulin resistant when you stop taking it.
Okay. Let me see here. Larita says, are Synachroma, Nervala, and healthy heart support good to be used by people with reduced kidney function?
Okay, good thoughts. Okay, so first of all, Nervala, the amount that we have in Nervala is not going to affect the kidney function, or not be affected by the kidney function, so it'll be just fine. Synachroma, the cinnamon will be okay. Vitamin D is actually really good in the people that have kidney failure. Vitamin D is helpful because it's the kidneys that activate the vitamin D. And then the chromium, those are microgram quantities, so that's fine too. Well, and what was the Nervala and Synachroma? What was the other one?
Healthy heart support.
Oh yeah, healthy heart support. We didn't talk about that one today. Let's see. Healthy heart support has ashwagandha, which would be fine. Beetroot, which would be fine. L-carnitine. Yeah, those are all fine. So think of it this way. None of these are in like high dose types of supplements, and so they're not going to be affected by kidney failure.
Okay. Don says, I was taking 1,000 milligrams of metformin twice a day. Switch to berberine, same amount. Is this advisable?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So berberine, yeah, it requires about 1,000 milligrams twice a day, or I usually start people 500 milligrams 3 times a day. And then you can, the next step up would be 500 milligrams twice a day or 1,000 milligrams twice a day. So yeah, that's fine. That's a good dose.
All right. Rayanne attempted a 72-hour fast. I made it 24 hours before my blood sugar dropped to 65. I got scared and ate something. Then I tried again and I went to bed with a blood sugar of 134, but woke up with a blood sugar of 135. Why would that be?
Well, because of the dawn effect, the morning effect, your blood glucose goes down at night, and so your body starts making glucagon, so your liver actually makes sugar out of protein. And then your cholesterol or cortisol goes up in the morning, and cortisol causes you to be insulin resistant, so it raises your blood sugar level. So that by itself is a problem. It's okay. And actually the 65 is really good. That's great. That's a normal number. So you didn't have to eat anything at that point. If you're hypoglycemic to the point where you're having a headache or fatigue or weakness or something, then it might be worth eating something. Otherwise, I usually tell people to push through it.
Bill said, I've been taking Nervala for a little over a month. I've had some pain in my toes in the second and third week. The flexibility in my feet has improved. I can actually wiggle my toes. So that is awesome.
Wow. See? Yeah, that's great.
All right. Cheryl said the J-Curve article will be available on Home Cures That Work on December 1st. Thank you, Cheryl.
December 1st. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Kevin said, I had severe pain in my feet, mainly at night. Why? I've just recently cut my daily sugar intake to below 22 grams. Will this help the pain to eventually go away? Is my body detoxing the sugar in my system?
No, that's not what it is. What it is a circulation problem in your feet. So you actually need to decrease the sugar. And the more pain is either it's getting worse or it's getting better. Like I said, if it was numb and it's getting better, you're going to have more pain. If you can feel everything and then you're getting pain and tingling, then that's getting worse. So that's how you know if you're getting better or you're getting worse. And so the way to handle that is to normalize the blood sugar, first of all. And then second of all, take Nervala.
All right. Okay. So many questions, guys. I'm sorry that we can't get to all of these. David is wondering if, well, actually, maybe what are your thoughts about Trulicity? I think he was wondering if it was the same as Ozempic and what your thoughts are.
Darn it. I don't. Trulicity. What Trulicity,
let me see.
I want to get it right. I'm trying to remember what it does. It's not the same as Ozempic. It's different, but I
don't know.
I'm not sure which system it works on. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, I don't want to I don't know what information you want. Yeah, because someone had asked even if Trulicity and Ozempic are the same thing and they have different active ingredients. It says Trulicity contains dulaglutide. Well, Ozempic contains
dulaglutide.
Yeah. So they're a little different.
Semaglutide, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. But they're both peptide hormones, and they're both they work on the glucagon system, and so glucagon like peptides. Yeah, they're similar, but I don't know. I don't have a comparison. I don't know what the comparison is between them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Dr. Saunders, thank you so much for being with us today. Go enjoy the rest of your trip. And we so appreciate you.
I am enjoying it. In
Good.
fact, I'm enjoying being on the. Do you have any more questions?
I do. We can go for a couple more
Okay.
minutes. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about this before, but Tom said that he wakes up after 2 hours. Is it because my sugar levels increase during sleep? So he's going to bed, and then after 2 hours, he wakes up.
Sometimes that's because the blood sugar goes down, not usually because it goes up. But sometimes people just wake up after 2 hours for other reasons. Like if you have deep sleep, and you do your deep sleep, like you go to bed at 10, then you get your deep sleep, usually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And sometimes around midnight, there's a time when people normally wake up. And if you look at a sleep cycle, that's actually a common thing. But most people go right back to sleep and go back into deep sleep and don't notice that they woke up. However, some people, they wake up and they don't, and they wake up all the way. And so they're aware of waking up. It could be because your blood sugar is getting low, that you're getting aware of that. Possible.
Larita is asking if it's okay to take Nervala once a day with breakfast and then adding 1 or 2 capsules of healthy heart support with lunch, even if your blood pressure is around 94 or 94 on over 52 or in the range of 100 to 110 or 50-60. Do you recommend to take Synachrom and Nervala healthy heart support? Oh, that question was an earlier one. Sorry. So any thoughts about taking the Nervala and then healthy heart support at lunch, regardless of blood pressure?
Yeah, well, you can take those regardless of blood pressure. That shouldn't affect your blood pressure. And the blood pressure being 90/50, that's kind of low. Find out why that is. There's a reason the blood pressure's low. It's that, is it like dehydration, a lack of salt? Some people just need more salt and more sodium, both sodium and potassium in their diet, for example.
Okay. Rosalind said, could you explain about calcium? I don't know, hydrodeposition disease or calcific tendonitis on the femoral, etc. What can I take to fix it?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So, calcium can deposit in places where there's inflammation. And that's actually a very common thing, which is why you get calcium deposits in your arteries when you have arterial disease. And it happens on tendons too. So calcific tendonitis or tendinosis happens from inflammation in the tendons. And it's often because there's damage to the tendons and they're not repairing properly. So you have sort of a chronic inflammation in the tendons that are causing calcium to be deposited. So there's 2 things to do. One of them is to get rid of the inflammation in the tendons. And the second thing is to take a high dose vitamin K supplement, something like at least 300 micrograms, but they even have one that's like 45 milligrams that you can get from Life Extension. That is something, vitamin K2, that takes the calcium deposits out of the soft tissues like tendons and puts it in the hard tissues like bones. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is to get rid of inflammation. So the way to get rid of inflammation, to find out why it's there. But I've had people take hyaluronic acid and MSM, methylsulfonyl methane, are 2 great supplements for decreasing the inflammation in tendons and joints. You can actually get a joint formula too. And I've had people tell me those work really well.
Seshadri asked what type 3 diabetes is.
Okay, type 3 diabetes technically doesn't exist, but it's been characterized as what do you call it?
Like Alzheimer's or dementia?
Alzheimer's, yeah. Dementia. That's the word I was trying to think of. I wanted to say Alzheimer's. Dementia. So people with diabetes often get dementia. It's kind of a common problem, and they don't. It's a metabolic dementia, and it's completely curable and preventable. Type 3 diabetes.
All right. Okay. Last question. Is berberine more advisable than metformin?
You know what? I would say so. If I look at all the benefits of berberine, it does everything metformin does and more. So I would say I would use berberine before I would use metformin.
All right. Okay. Thank you again. Sleep well, Dr.
All right.
Saunders.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Those of you who are still here, we have another webinar tomorrow, our Healthy Heart webinar, and that will start at 12 noon Central Time. Dr. Saunders will be here for that. Who knows where he will be tomorrow? It'll be a surprise, right? So feel free to register for that free webinar at bartonwebinar.com. And we will tackle all of your questions about having a healthy heart, preventing heart disease, and all of those things. So the information is a little bit different on that webinar. The low carb diet, might not be exactly what he recommends for a healthy heart. And so what if you want a healthy heart and you want to reverse your type 2? Is that a possibility? Tune in tomorrow. We'll chat about that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and see you tomorrow or next week. Bye.